If I could have your attention, please, I just ask that you join us in a moment of silence as an opportunity to give thanks for many blessings, remember those who are ill and facing challenges, the great expectations of things to come for our District 1 families and communities, and just whatever happens to be on your heart or in your thoughts. If you'd join us, please, for a moment of silence. Amen, and thank you. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And again, if you would, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you again for being here with us tonight. We appreciate you coming out on a dreary night like this. And just like to mention that we have board member Mrs. McDowell on the telephone. So she's joining us by phone, so we're all present. And with that, hey, Mrs. McDowell.
Miss McDowell said hello, so thank you, Miss McDowell. Everybody can hear you.
And our first item of business is our consent agenda, which includes the approval of the agenda, approval of board meeting minutes, December 11th, 2023, approval of board work session meeting minutes, January 29th, 2024, and the approval of the check registry. So do I have a motion that we approve consent agenda?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Cosman. Have a second, Mr. Skinner. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Or saying aye, Ms. McDowell. Thank you. Our next item is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to everyone here present tonight and online. We're glad to have you. As Mr. Chairman Rollins said, glad you didn't get too wet on the way in. But it's my honor and privilege tonight to celebrate an unsung group of people that I would like to point out. We do not have a regular scheduled meeting in January, and that is National School Board Appreciation Month. And tonight we're going to make good on not having that meeting. And we're going to celebrate our board members tonight. So as Ms. Tesnier and Dr. Beeson come forward, I would like to just say thank you, school board, for donating your time. And I'm not sure everybody knows this, but they do not get paid for this position. This is it's voted on, but there's no compensation. And it is a wonderful job, but a tough job. There's a lot of hours put in, countless hours, and you folks do that without a whimper. And I just appreciate your willingness to serve, your compassion, your strength, your integrity, your character. It's just a fine group and a board to work with. And this actually marks the first, my first year. I came last February, and I just thank you all for giving me this opportunity. It's outside of my marriage, which I've outpunted my coverage, and I don't know why my wife married me. If you've seen her, you're thinking the same thing. And then the 4 beautiful children the Lord gave us. This has been the honor of my life, to move up here with you fine folks and live with our community. And it's our community now, because we're all in it together. And I just thank you all for that opportunity. But I want to publicly thank the board tonight for your service and your tireless work. There's hours upon hours put into this job, and you do it because you care about kids. And I thank you for that. And I want to turn it now over to Ms. Tesnier with some more special recognition.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Good evening, guests and board members. I have the distinct pleasure and honor of recognizing our school board members for Board Member Appreciation. And our friends that are in our next presentation are going to help give out our gifts. So if you'll give one to each one of our board members. And as they come along, I'm going to go ahead and read just a little bit about our board members. Tonight, I have the honor to recognize and celebrate our school board members. This celebration is for an invaluable pillar of our educational committee, our educational community, our dedicated school board members. Your unwavering commitment and insightful leadership for our district do not go unnoticed. Every decision made, every policy implemented, and every budget approved reflects your deep care and vision for the future of our students and educators. The beautiful pieces of artwork you will find in your gift bags tonight are just tokens of appreciation, but they're not just simply tokens. They are the spirit of exploration that thrives within the walls of Spartanburg School District 1. They are also pieces of art from a testament of the thriving arts programs that you have supported over the years. Thank you to Ms. Emma Yankovich and our Mabry Middle School students who created these beautiful pieces of art to give a little splash of color and creativity for tonight's celebration. The role of a school board member is often behind the scenes, yet it is foundational to the success of our schools. You navigate challenges with wisdom, embrace opportunities with enthusiasm, and always place the educational needs of our students and staff at the forefront. For this, we are profoundly thankful. Thank you for the impact that you have made on the lives of countless students and educators. Your dedication fuels our mission, your vision inspires our journey, and your service shapes the future of Spartanburg One. On behalf of the entire Spartanburg One community, thank you, school board members, for what you do. If you'll please join me in a round of applause for our school board members.
Jade, I would like to point out that next year, let's make a note, because once the children passed out the presents, they didn't hear words you said. Did you hear these board members tearing into that? It was like 5-year-olds on Christmas. So what board members, what Jada was telling you is how wonderful you are. So I know you skipped to the present, and I totally get it. But just we'll have to make a note. You can't give them anything ahead of time. Dr. Beeson.
Thank you. On January the 3rd, Dr. Smith and I had the opportunity to go to all 11 of our schools and present to them service pins for years of service in Spartanburg School District 1 in increments of 5. And tonight we would like to recognize 2 of our board members who are also receiving Spartanburg 1 service pins, Mr. Holden and Mr. Rollins. If you would come forward, please. Mr. Holden is receiving a 10-year pin, although I think he's about at 11. And let me tell you, this when we took these pins out to these people, like they didn't like the idea of not getting the actual year. So I just wanted to clarify, you're getting a 10-year pin, but we know it's 11, okay? And Mr. Rollins. You are receiving a 20-year pin, but I know it's more than 20. But less than 25. Okay. Thank you so much for everything that you do for us in District 1 schools.
I have one more recognition tonight. Mr. Billy Cawthorn, will you join me at the podium, please? Again, continue the theme of tireless, thankless jobs. Billy Cawthorn, the last 2 years, has been our chairman and has served wonderfully the district for those 2 years and has passed the baton to Mark. And Mark served this role a couple times, I believe, in his tenure, so he knows what he's getting into. But Billy, we didn't want this to pass without us as a board saying thank you for your 2 years of service. So we have a small presentation here for you, and I'm going to give you a gavel so that you can have it and have it forever. And it says, Billy, presented to Billy Cothran in appreciation for years of service as chairman of the Board of Trustees, School District 1. Thank you, Billy. Let's get a picture. Let's get over here. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Smith, Ms. Tesnier, Dr. Beeson. We do appreciate the participation. Thank all the children for the participation as well. Our third item, public participation, we will skip. There's no public participation tonight. And our next item would be the instructional report, Mrs. Jody Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members, and Dr. Smith. I'm going to start with a curriculum update tonight, but the update is a celebration as well. Spartanburg County Schools Districts 1 through 7 have a partnership, and they've had this partnership for over 10 years with Spartanburg Community College to provide a small, personalized, academically supportive, and challenging learning community that accelerates our diverse student population to become responsible citizens who are strong critical thinkers, collaborators, and communicators who can successfully meet and face the challenges that we have in an ever-changing global society. This program is called Spartanburg County Early College High, but we also call it Sketches because, you know, we make everything an acronym and give it a name. It's directed by Dr. Claretta Kearns, who is here tonight. So, Dr. Kearns, if you want to come up here for just a minute. And also here with her tonight is Miss Amy Ushry. She is a senior AVID advisor. So, Miss Ushry, if you'll come on up too. We would just love for our board to see you, and we thank you for your continued work and partnership. But tonight, our real recognition goes to a senior student, Miss Caitlin Short. She is a Spartanburg District 1 Sketches student who has received a full 4-year match scholarship from Quest Bridge College Partners this year. And it is our pleasure to recognize her tonight for her success in the Sketches program and for earning this wonderful scholarship. So on behalf of Dr. Smith and the chairman, we have a certificate to present to you tonight. So if you'll come on forward. And we will get your picture tonight. Yes, please. That's fine. Had you up here as well. That's right. That's right. Thank you so much. Caitlin, we are so proud of you, and thank you, Dr. Kearns, for directing this wonderful program. So, as you heard, that Sketches is one avenue that our students can take advantage of in Spartanburg School District 1. There's more that we have, so we want to spotlight a little bit tonight. So under the leadership of Dr. Smith, we at Spartanburg 1 believe not only that teaching the state standards is important, but that teaching the profile of the South Carolina graduate is important and keeps us student-centered. So we have that available on the TVs tonight, just a reminder of what that infographic looks like, and we also keep it up here in our boardroom because we know that skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, and collaboration are just a few that prepare students for the global workforce, even starting in the elementary grades, which you're going to see in a moment. Tonight, it is my pleasure to turn it over to Principal Blake Neely and Rhonda Henson, Project Lead the Way teacher, and might I add this too, she is our STEM Educator of the Year for Spartanburg District 1 to share how Holly Springs Motlow uses the Project Lead the Way to meet the needs of our ever-changing global society. So thank you, Mr. Neely.
Good evening. Thank y'all for letting us be here with you all this evening. I just wanted to take a moment to introduce a program to you called Project Lead the Way, as Ms. Wright just mentioned. And it is a STEM-focused curriculum that we are so fortunate to be able to have that supports our students in grades K through 5 at Holly Springs Motlow. And STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so in this program, Ms. Henson, I'm going to let you go on ahead and come on up here, Ms. Henson, because Ms. Henson is the expert. So I'm going to introduce you to the expert and let her share a little bit more. But one of the great things is that our students are learning characteristics that help them become employable for the workforce. It helps them to have higher academic rigor and hands-on application. So our faculty has seen such a value in this. They co-teach with Ms. Henson in this as they come into our science lab. And they saw such value in it. Her first year implementing this program, they recognized her as Teacher of the Year. So I'm going to turn it over to our expert and let her do what she does best.
I'd like to start off by saying I'm working with kindergarten, and so that's why I'm sick a little bit, just a little. So at Holly Springs Motlow, I kind of have a picture here of kindergarten. We believe all students beginning at a young age need access to real-world applied learning experiences that empower them to gain the skills they need to thrive in a college career and beyond. Project Lead the Way, known as PLTW programs, provide teachers with the support and resources they need to devote more time to inspiring students. So I have a picture.
I can click for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Of my cabinets with some of our resources. And when I say resources, I mean they come with modules with all you need in that module, along with an online curriculum. So I have an example of 5th grade, Properties of Matter, and that's just one cabinet. It probably takes up 2 or 3 cabinets for each module, and then there's an example of kindergarten. So Holly Springs Motlow has 15 Project Lead the Way modules that fill the cabinets in our science lab. Project Lead the Way curriculum is a beautiful blend of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, also known as STEM. These modules were specifically chosen for their alignment to each grade level science standards. So they weren't just random modules. They're actually aligned with each grade level standards. Also, the timing of each module is taught according to the respective grade level science pacing guide. So for example, I have 1st grade, and at the top row is each of 1st grade standards, and it's kind of broken down into like first 9 weeks, second 9 weeks, third, and fourth. And when I come in with Project Lead the Way modules, we make sure that they, whatever 9 weeks they're teaching, for example, Earth's place in the universe, that's the 9 weeks we're doing the module that goes with that. So not only is it beneficial to the standards, but it's beneficial to the teacher, and the timing is right. We kind of wanted to make sure that was the case. At the end of each module, students, first of all, they build the skills and the content, and then at the end, they have a design challenge. For example, this is 3rd grade, and the end of their module about living things and survival, their module challenge was to build a habitat, specifically a bee habitat, because bees are like the keystone species. So the first thing they do is they draw their idea, and then they have to sell their idea to their teammates. Like 4 or 5 sit at a table. So they have to kind of sell their idea, and the table votes on the best idea, and then they actually create it with a model. So that hits a lot of teamwork. The creating hits a lot of communication type skills. So this is what we're going to you guys are going to kind of experience tonight, is a 4th grade Waves and Light module. So students explored how light can interact with different materials that are transparent, translucent, and opaque. They used the design process to design a game that incorporated their knowledge and skills about light gained throughout the module. So they gain the skills, they gain the knowledge for the first week and a half, and then at the end of the module, which is a 2-week module, they create something based on what they've learned. If you see in the middle, you can kind of see, it's called Vex materials. It's kind of like Connects, or a little bit sort of like Lego. And they use that, and you can see, you see some poems in the pictures on the back, and you see the laser at the beginning, at the front. And then on the back, little wall, there's some examples. They had to make a rule book, just like you would a board game. And of course, they add a little aesthetic, the little melting ice cream monsters. On the right, they even themed their games. You know, you have all the different aspects, and they theme their games. On the right is an example of a game that they themed the Titanic. Samuel, I think you were part of that one. Anyway, the theme of the game was the Titanic, because they were also studying the Titanic. And then on the left, you can see it was a sort of a Christmas theme. So it's not just the science, it's also the adding the rule books and all that type of thing. So I have a laser challenge for you guys. And don't worry, I have my experts here, so I'm going to call them up in a minute to help you out. But we always, during the challenge, you have criteria, which are kind of like the rules, and you have constraints, which are kind of like the limits. So here are your criteria. Your laser beam, let me get some material so I can make sure I can talk it while you see it. Your laser beam must hit a transparent, translucent, and opaque hexagon simultaneously. In other words, you can't hit transparent, then hit opaque, then hit translucent. It has to go through all three. So here's your laser. That's what it looks like. Here's a hexagon. And they fit on the little bottom game board, okay? The next rule is that your laser beam must reflect at least one time. And don't worry, if you don't know this vocabulary, we have students for that. Yeah. And your last criteria is that your laser beam run must end on the target. Here's your target. My students, if you'll look, here's their target. Okay? Okay?
FYI, Wesley, if he gets this, helps me right on this, he's not going to have to go the rest of his high school career. He's going to go ahead and get a diploma tonight.
I tell my students, I won't tell where it's going, just spray something.
think she got it. It's okay. It's okay.
All right, Memphis, you're going to have to call time on your team. Thank you.
Skip to the next one.
Yeah. So just to sum that up, you can see where the kids really have to work hard. And all throughout the module, they're gaining those skills and that understanding. So that's the thing about Project Lead the Way, I feel like. It's just, it hits all those world-class skills. Besides hitting the content, it hits creativity, as you could see from some of the gaming pieces they came up with, innovation. You know, they're kind of on that cutting edge of new ideas. Critical thinking and problem solving. A lot of times it doesn't go right the first time, and some students aren't used to that. So for them to have to go back and figure it out and try again, and that's okay, that's how we learn. It's what we find out. Collaboration and teamwork, to be able to work together and get things done, and how it takes everybody on the team. Communication, selling their ideas to others, and then we present at the end of class. So they have to kind of tell what they did, and then knowing how to learn, and that's part of picking up ideas as you're going through the module so that you can use them at the end. So Project Lead the Way is a transformative, or I would even call it a submersive, learning environment that empowers students to develop in-demand knowledge and world-class skills necessary to thrive in an ever-evolving world. Thank you, guys. I hope you enjoyed that.
Very good. School board, I would just like to thank you, Ms. Henson. I was able to go to a talent forum at USC Upstate earlier this year, and at that forum, people from all over the country were presenting. And one of the presenters from a manufacturing company gave this stat that 85% of the jobs that will be created by 2030, so that's only 7 years from now. It was in October this year, so at that point it was 7 years away. 85% of the jobs aren't created yet. So for us to prepare our children, we have to invest in programs like Project Lead the Way that teach them how to think, because as you can see from that short experiment, there's not a multiple choice for that. You have to figure it out. So thank you, Ms. Henson. Thank you, kids. Thanks my man there for helping me, so I appreciate it.
I echo Dr. Smith. Thank you so much. And thank you for letting us share that with your curriculum update this evening.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So do all elementary schools have access to this curriculum?
All elementary schools do not have access to this curriculum. All elementary schools do teach the standards. All middle and high have an opportunity. We have piloted this program at Holly Springs Motlow with our Title I funds at this time. Just piloting it to see how it went in the elementary level.
With it being so successful, do you foresee us expanding it?
Absolutely. Especially, like I mentioned tonight, under Dr. Smith's leadership, the way he's really looking at the profile of the South Carolina graduate with the world-class skills, I can see us definitely moving in this direction. And especially the way the students are reacting to these type of experiences. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, I'm presenting the 24-25 academic calendar that was created in conjunction with all the districts 2 through 7 in Spartanburg County for your approval tonight.
I have a question on this one also. Would it be possible to put the graduation dates on here for the next calendar year?
Sure.
Great, thank you.
I make a motion to approve the calendar
I
for the
second.
24-25 academic year.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Second. Any further discussion? Not to approve, signify by raising your right hand. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you so much. And the last item I have tonight is I would like to share with you some information regarding locally designed elective courses. You have this information as hard copies at your seat, as well as documents in your Google Drive folder. This is from the State Board of Education. It's Regulation 43-237, and it states locally designed elective courses must be approved by the local Board of Trustees. Laura McNair, our education associate from the State Department of Education, did a preliminary audit with us last year, and she's recommended that our locally designed elective courses be approved by the Board of Trustees each year. So special notes, just to note that the following files are in your board packet, and like I mentioned before, you have hard copies. So as we look at those, this is the local board approved courses information. It's this sheet right here. There's also a 24-25 draft of local approved board courses, which are elective courses that we are currently using. There's also this nice, wonderful, I love this. It's the first time that we've ever had this comprehensive district high school course guide. The guide includes all courses available for our students. This combines Chapman and Landrum together. And then, so basically what we're looking at too is the 24-25, the new local board courses for approval. So in this packet here, as you look at those, that's your local history and public policy honors. And then you'll see Theater 5 honors, Theater 6 honors, Theater 7 honors, and Theater 8 honors in here. These theater courses mirror the same sequence that we've used in the past for other performing arts, such as the way we did our courses in band and in chorus and in orchestra. So what we're asking tonight, as you look at these different pieces, is we're asking that the Board of Trustees review all of these that I mentioned tonight and vote on the approval of these elective courses offering during the March 11th meeting, so next month. We just wanted to give you a lot of information ahead of time that you would have it at your fingertips before we did any type of voting.
And local board courses, we've had those forever. It's just something now the State Department is wanting us to get board approval, which I understand why. That's why this is a new item. That's right. It's really not new.
It's really
We've
not
been
new.
doing this for forever. We're just asked to get approval now, so that's why we're taking this step. If you have
And-
any questions, though, you can feel free to call Jody or myself or Amy Driggers this week. I do want to give a shout out to the course book, though. It's the first time ever we've combined Landrum and Chapman's course book and had a District 1 course book, just making sure all of our students know of all the opportunities, because our high schools are less than 10 minutes away from each other. And if we have students interested in certain courses, we will make it happen for them to be able to take those courses at either school. So I just want to make sure all of our students are aware of all the opportunities we have so that we're maximizing the taxpayer dollar to make sure we stretch it as far as we can and give our kids as many opportunities as we can. Because we may have certain things at a high school that we don't at the others. So just making sure we all know what's going on.
So I really like the look of this local history and public policy. So that, if I heard you right, that's one that is offered at Landrum, but if students at Chapman wanted to take it, they could take it as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Barbara, that's a good question. Does that depend on class size? Absolutely. And it would be how the students submit their registration request, and we would get that figured out through that process.
And do you know if it'll be offered both semesters, or is it just like, do you know, if, I guess class size would determine if it's large enough, she can teach that both semesters as well?
That's correct.
Okay.
Class size determines that. Any other question or discussion?
I have just a question, just for us to think about, and that is perhaps the unintended consequences of us moving up curriculum into the from the high school to the middle school. We allowed students to start taking courses sooner so they could take more college prep classes. From Lance's experience, at least my observation, he had basically no official courses to take much in that last semester. And the senior year of high school looks a lot different than my senior year of high school. And I wonder if there's something we should consider about that going forward, either with Dr. Smith's vision to connect us to the career and readiness, or if there is a deliberate, intentional look at what we're doing for students who basically have a whole semester that's not being utilized in a high school career.
Yes, sir. The curriculum team is currently working on that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead. And the curriculum team is currently looking at that. We currently are using the 2015 math standards as our approach, but we're looking at next year. The state has new math standards, and those standards are up for approval and have went through that process of approval, but we do not have the new text with them yet. But as we start looking at that, we are looking at what the state is proposing as just doing geometry first on the track, and then Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, and that's a state recommendation for us. And so we're looking at that and preparing to shift our pathway somewhat next year for students, especially, like you said, with the new experiences that we have. So we're looking at that, and we're listening to a lot of feedback and talking with teachers now to make some changes towards the pathway.
And Mara, that's a great question and point. We're looking at how many high school courses are offered at middle school, and then which ones we need to keep, which ones may need to move back to high school, and looking at everything with how we start in kindergarten and go through 12th grade. And then with the end game of building up more co-op and internship opportunities for everybody. So all that, I've got Jody's team working overtime on looking at all those things right now.
It's good stuff. We're looking hard at it.
It's a great opportunity that we've moved up, but the experience, from the perspective of the student as a senior in high school, it's very different than what we went through. A lot of them are able to graduate in December, and but not actually March until, of course, the graduation. So I think it's an opportunity for us to do more, and to, for the kids who want to get more college credits. Lance walked in with, I don't know how many hours, but it's so much ahead of where I was. But I just would really like to see us consider that an opportunity for us to better our courses.
Thank you. We're looking at that. So I appreciate that feedback. Any other questions or comments?
Have we thought about how these courses that are local indoors, how they support the profile of a South Carolina graduate? I think the profile is fantastic, right? It is a very comprehensive vision. And do the ones that we offer, is there any that we need to clean up?
We're drilling down in that as we're doing our pathway changes, and we're just kind of looking at what could be offered, what else is out there. So these are some that are locally board approved that we have, and we're always each year adding something different. So as we start this process with you, you'll have more information about what we're adding, what we can see. And, just this year we added audio engineering. So that went over really well. So we're continuing to look at and keep abreast of, like Dr. Smith was mentioning, what the workforce is telling us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's ever changing, right? So it's
Yes, sir.
there's no finish line to this.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members.
Thank you, Mrs. Wright. And we appreciate all that participation. And if there happens to be any guests who are still here for their portion of the participation, feel free to go ahead and leave if you like, but you're welcome to stay for the entire program. That was a great report. Our next item is personnel report. Dr. Beeson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Smith, and board members. You have the personnel report in your personnel packet. At this time, I would like to recommend that you accept the retirements effective at the end of the 23-24 school year. Please note that many of these will be coming back as the working retired.
And we have a recommendation to approve the retirements. And do we have a motion? Motion, Mr. Holden, thank you.
I'll second.
Second, Ms. Fowler, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. And an aye. Thank you, Ms. McDowell.
Thank you. I would also like to recommend that you accept the resignations effective at the end of the 23-24 school year. These are also listed in your personnel packet.
I'll make a motion that we accept the resignations effective at the end of the 23-24 school year.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. Second, Ms. Hopper. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you, Ms. McDowell.
And finally, I'd like to ask that you accept the recommendations for employment, some for the 23-24 school year and some for the 24-25 school year.
Again, we have a recommendation to accept the new hires.
I'll make a motion that we approve the employment for the 2023-24 school year.
And
And 24,
24,
25. Thank you, Ms. Fowler. Mr. Vanderford, thank you for the second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand and saying aye. Thank you, Ms. McDowell.
thank you.
Our next item is the policy report.
Tonight, for your consideration, we have Section C of the policy revision, as outlined in our schedule. I am going to go through and read the letters, which would be the titles of each policy. We'll start, hold on. Somebody. There is, unfortunately, just. Section C. Chart C. Yes, sir. Unfortunately, I think we accidentally just deleted a column of the new code, so bear with me. CA is administrative goals, priority objectives. CB, school superintendent. CBA, qualifications of superintendent. CBC, superintendent duties and responsibilities. CBD, superintendent's contract. CBI, evaluation of superintendent. CC, administrative organization. CCA, organization chart. CCAE, organizational chart as an administrative rule. CCB, line and staff relations. CFA, school principals and building administrators. CFC, assignment and transfer of building administrators. CH, policy implementation. And CM, school district annual reports. You have all had these policies, and certainly if there are any suggestions at this time, we'll be welcome to have that feedback. but they are presented for a first reading.
Are you gonna go one by one or just for feedback or?
We can if you would like.
um,
Let me see if we can get back by.
I would suggest instead of going one by one, if a board member wants to make a comment about one, just address the specific policy, and then we can take
Okay.
that feedback.
Okay.
CBD, there's, in the second paragraph, the last sentence says, "The board will act as a buffer between the superintendent and special interest groups in the community by ensuring his or her security from the threat of sudden and unjustified dismissal." And since the board is responsible for dismissal and not the community, I think that's just inappropriate that it's in there. And I was thinking we should probably strike that because it doesn't apply. It's CBD, second paragraph, last sentence.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm gonna get Mr. Atkins to see, because in that, in the chart, there was a left-hand column that had the new policy that somehow disappeared with edit rights, I believe. Sir?
What you just did, we see it now.
Oh, you do? Because
Yeah,
I
we see
don't.
it. Not the column that was there earlier that we looked at, I don't see that on there anymore, but what this,
Yeah.
as you make the changes, we can see that.
I'd love to have the column back, Casey, if you can help. All right. CBD?
yes, it's policy CBD, superintendent's contract.
I've got that.
Second paragraph, last sentence reads currently, "The board will act as a buffer between the superintendent and special interest groups in the community by ensuring his or her security from the threat of sudden and unjustified dismissal." And my argument is that because only the board is responsible for the hiring or firing of a superintendent, this is inappropriate that it's in our policy because it doesn't apply. The community cannot dismiss the superintendent, only the board. So that was, I was thinking we should strike that. And I'm assuming that came from the School Board Association. that
Yes,
way.
ma'am.
Yeah. Any comment?
For me, I would say that the first part of the sentence is okay. The sudden unjustified dismissal, I can support what Ms. Baker's saying, but I do think that the board has the responsibility to support the superintendent.
I just don't think that's what it reads.
I'm sorry, Wanda, I'm sorry. What,
So
say
you're
that
saying
again?
stop at special interest groups, put a period there?
What is considered a special, interest group in the community?
Could be
Would
a
it-
number of different,
Parents, religious groups.
it can be a number of different
Yeah.
groups.
I think the,
Anybody in an organization? in the
anybody in an
community?
organization.
Sure.
no,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
If it's trying to say that the board is the elected by the public, so the board should be the entity that deals with the public, I think it does a poor job of saying that.
We can look at the wording. Jade will make a note.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
It's confusing,
I'm sorry.
it's confusing.
It is, it is. CBI, I like it as you amended it. There are some, things that are stricken and highlighted that, I like that. CC, the same. One of the things on CC, the last sentence of the first paragraph says, board approval will be required for changes to the organization structure, such as the elimination of existing positions or the creation of new positions. And I need a little clarification on that, just because we will approve a budget. If we, you know, I always go to, what's the worst that could possibly happen? That's why you have a law or a policy. So if you had someone that says, well, we're gonna add 20 assistant superintendents, that should come before the board, I think. And it's also, there's somewhere else in policy already that says that to replace a position, you don't need a board approval, but to create a new position, it needs board approval. So I think we need to maybe take a look at that to make sure everything goes together and it works with our budgeting responsibilities as well. So that last sentence, I'm a little uncertain of how we should deal with that, but I think it's gonna cause some issues.
Sure. I just want some flexibility if it's not a new position. And because if I were asking for a new FTE, a full-time position, obviously the board would have to approve that in terms of any of our administrative structure. But if there's a retirement or whatever like we had last year, I had to restructure, and I would love the board's flexibility to be able to restructure within our current budget, as long as I'm not adding. That would be the only thing I would, and we can draw that
perhaps
up
we can
any way
change that.
you want to. I just want that flexibility, because I got to run an organization.
Correct. And this says, at creating new positions, so it doesn't cover that. So, maybe we can marry that somehow, and that would be.
Jade will make a note of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You added within the approved budget, right?
Yes,
Jada?
ma'am, I did.
Okay. It said, can you read how it?
Yes, ma'am.
reads?
So it now reads, therefore, the superintendent shall evaluate the current structure and, when necessary, make revisions to the administrative organization to meet the goals and objectives the board has set forth for the district within the approved annual budget.
CCA and CCA-E, good. CCB, I'm good. CCB, page 2. This says the board expects teachers to express their views in faculty meetings. The board encourages this opportunity for open expression and sharing of responsibility for the successful operation of the schools. I don't know if there's some language that we could add that further provides protection for someone expressing maybe a dissenting opinion, or if that's even necessary, but I've just, in the past, you know, maybe it wasn't completely welcome to have a differing opinion. And so if there's some way that the board can provide support for teachers expressing their opinions, whatever that might be. That's the second paragraph on page 2. Just, and maybe, you know, just some sort of a, I don't know, if we could put some more encouraging language of the board supports, you know, all opinions or something like that. That's just, was a thought when I read it. Is there additional protection we could provide for expressing a dissenting opinion? And then down under board and teacher relations, I have a question maybe that needs to go to the SCSBA lawyers, but because we are also elected officials, this says that the teachers really don't have a direct line to the board. And I don't know how that works, because we are their elected officials and they should be able to bring anything to us, anybody that works here. You know, our employee is the superintendent, but I don't know how that works, because we are elected officials and they should be able to bring something to us directly without it harming them in any way, harming their position. I understand there's a line that, you know, a teacher needs to take things to their, and go up the line, but how does that work with us as their elected officials? And are we infringing somehow on their rights by limiting the fact that we're telling them that they can't come directly to the board?
No, where exactly are you seeing?
Page 2, under board and teacher of CCB.
Right.
So it
under
reads,
board and teacher relations.
the relationship of the teacher to the board is indirect.
Indirect.
The teacher is directly responsible to the principal, and through the principal to the superintendent, and then to the board. However, this does not mean that a teacher does not have access to the superintendent or to the board. Conditions may arise when a teacher may obtain direct access through channels established for grievances.
And that's where I was going at. Does that not satisfy that when it says,
That's still different
It's not
than
saying-
Joe Blow voter calling you up and going, I would like to see this in the district, or, you know, I just, it is a little different to have to go through a process. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't, I just want to make sure that we're not infringing on any of their rights to address their elected official, if they want to directly. And I wanted to see if we could get the SESBA lawyer to.
I feel like you've got to have a chain of command in any area that, you know, it's being addressed. And, I mean, I've already been contacted myself by teachers, and my first thing is, you know, and it's been just minor things I've made Mark aware of, but, you know, my first question is, you know, have you gone through the proper channels? Have you talked to your supervisor? Have you talked to your principal? And I don't offer anything other than I will take your information to, I'll take it to the superintendent. That's how I established as a new board member. I mean,
Correct,
I'm
but
about
I'm
shares
just saying in
anything.
policy, as we put in policy, I just wanted to have that question answered, considering we are elected officials.
Debbie, could we just out of clarity, all we need to know is, are we infringing on any of their rights
By doing
as
that.
a voting person? And if it's
Right.
not, then we can leave it.
We can-
Correct.
We can check that out.
Yeah, I would just like to
Jade will
have
make a
their,
note.
to
Thank you.
rule on that.
I have a question. In reference to what Barbara said, that if she or we receive a call, we go directly to Mark with it. Are we cutting out the principal? If we're gonna do the chain of command, should we take that
No,
back?
you
or
would
go-
definitely want to communicate with me.
Okay.
Trust me, the principal's got more than enough to do running the school. Thank you for the question, but yeah, always call me.
The
Okay.
question is, have you taken it through the proper channel?
That's what I'm
Yes,
saying.
yeah, of course.
Do we take it through, or have you taken it through the proper channels, advise them to do so, and if they persist, then we go to Mark and we cut the principal out? I mean, Dr. Smith.
Yeah,
Dr. Smith handles it with the principal.
in my experience,
I got you.
you're not,
That's how it goes.
you're not taking anything away from the teacher. If you say, have you followed the proper channels, and they say, yes, I have, then you can say, okay, fine, let's talk, and let's hear the concern, and then you take it to Dr. Smith. And that would be how I've handled it in the past.
And Mr. Vanderford, that next section of board and principal relations will help you understand that a little bit better. Yes, sir.
I got a question, Mr. Chairman. If you open that up, I agree, you gotta have a chain of command. But if you open it up to where the teacher just calls a school board member directly, you're gonna open it up to parents and everybody else. I would think you would have to. If they follow the proper channels, then if a principal or somebody's not doing their job, then Dr. Smith's got to address that. And if when they talk to Dr. Smith, he can investigate that and find out if there's an issue, then he'll have to deal with it.
There's and pretty much what you said is what we do. I'm just wondering about putting this in policy, and is there any legal, it's just a question, and it may
Sure.
be, you know,
Well,
nothing.
we'll check it out.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions for Jada?
I do.
Oh.
Just, I think we had talked about the wording on CFA, to clarify the first bullet statement, creating a learning environment that is appropriate for students. Maybe just clarify it a little bit, an environment conducive to learning, because appropriate gets charged. I think that's all. That's all I have. I think you may have already changed it.
I haven't.
Okay. On the first bullet statement, it says create a learning environment that is appropriate for students. And I just thought maybe we might want to change it to creating an environment conducive to learning. Educational environment. That's all I have. Thanks. Thank
I'd
you.
like to
That's a
say-
lot of great work. Thank you.
Ms. Tessner, in reference
sir.
to my point, I understand now. You deal with the principals. We do not, and we don't direct anyone else to.
Sure. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I've
Thank
done
you.
my reading.
Thank you.
It's a lot to learn.
There is a lot to learn.
And
All
could I
right.
just make a comment?
Yes, sir, please.
I mean, sometimes when the public, when they do reach out to us, they don't understand that chain of command. They may not know that chain of command. And so, but there's nothing to keep them from reaching out, and from us responding. But, correct.
Yes, sir. I think the more dialogue and discussion, the better. I'm all for it. And I think Debbie's point is just to make sure in the point there, in the policy, they have access to that. And I can only speak for how my approach is. My door's always open. My email's always answered the day of. My phone calls are always returned that day. Everybody has access, but I understand you have to protect that in policy, so I understand that. But we want to create a culture where people can dissent and share their opinion, and of course, do it in the right way.
Right,
But I appreciate all the comments here from the board. Thank you.
I just want to say one other thing about and they'll talk about this in depth this weekend, is that we are an appeals board. So if somebody goes through the chain, you have to really kind of decide, depending on what they bring to you, are we going to have to hear this? And if we have to hear this later, you just go ahead and refer it, because if you hear all the details, then you have to recuse yourself when it's actually heard before the board. So they'll talk a lot about that this weekend. Get you. But you listen, but there's a certain point where you say, I got to stop you because I'm going to probably have to hear this. So
And you can always direct them to me. You can always, because you are the hearing body, but I am there for them to listen. Thank y'all so much for that feedback.
hold on one second, I'll put you on the mic. Okay.
Okay. Well, I think it all began with Coach CH, and I've already spoken with Jada about this, but we probably need to look at throughout the entire, this entire section, the deviation between teachers, staff, and administration. Sometimes we say staff, sometimes we say administration. I don't know if there's a difference. I think there is. So I think maybe we should lean more to District 1 employees when we're referring to everyone. But that was just an observation I got when I was reading. It sometimes refers to staff, it sometimes says administration, but I think there is a difference between the classified, non-classified, and the administration.
Thank you, Ms. McDowell.
Yeah.
We've made a note of that.
I think Debbie may have been a little concerned about retaliation. If teachers said something in a meeting, they would feel like they might be retaliated against. I feel like we handled that problem when we hired Dr. Smith, and I would hope that would be addressed, and I hope that teachers and parents all would feel like they got the opportunity to come talk to the principals, and if it leads to Dr. Smith or school board, that they would bring their problems through the proper channel without retaliation, and I hope they don't feel like that they would be retaliated against.
Absolutely. And we'll do our anonymous surveys. They're going out this week or next week? This week to the whole staff. So, all right. Thank you, board, for your feedback.
Do we need a I would
Yes,
like to
ma'am.
make a motion that we approve this as the first reading.
And I'll second that. Mr. Chairman, can I ask that we just take a brief 5-minute restroom break, please, sir?
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll start back up with Ms. Brady. Thank you, Ms. Fowler. Okay, if we can round up our members, we'll continue. Thank you all. Ms. Brady?
All right, good evening. As we started back in 2016 with our one-to-one technology, we refreshed in 2020, and now it's time for us to refresh again here in 2021. Please keep in mind that this technology refresh that we're talking about is for new devices for all students in grades K to 12 and all staff. It also includes new devices for special population classrooms and media centers. Our debt service millage capacity allows for us to bring a resolution for $4.1 million for your consideration this evening. This resolution allows us to provide a refresh without the depletion of capital or general funds and will be paid over the course of the next 4 years out of our debt service fund. This will be completed with no millage increase. Okay. Do I have any questions about the resolution?
You said 4.1, the resolution has 4.2.
Well, that's close. Well, yeah,
4.2 is okay?
4.2 is okay.
Okay, good.
So it's not to exceed 4.2?
Not to exceed 4.2. It's actually closer to 4.1. Usually when they do the resolutions, they kind of round up a little bit, just to kind of.
I have a stupid question.
There is
Maybe
no
all of them are,
stupid
but,
questions.
but the resolution itself is very vague. It says an amount not to exceed 4.2 million for the purpose of acquiring certain equipment, authorizing the district superintendent to determine certain matters and other matters relating thereto. It just sounds like it's, I mean, is that how they do that?
Yes, ma'am, that's their standard language.
Which is very vague.
It is, but I will say what they do is they do attach the
So
documentation
that does
to it.
stay there?
It does.
Okay,
It does
all right,
stay.
well, I'm good.
So. Okay. Any more questions? Well, if there's no more questions, or even if there's questions afterwards, at this time, administration does ask for you to approve the resolution to, for this technology acquisition loan not to exceed $4.2 million.
I'll make a motion that, for the approval of a resolution for the equipment acquisition loan for the 24-25 technology refresh.
We have a motion, Ms. Fowler, thank you.
I second.
And a second, Ms. Hopper, thank you. Any further discussion or any questions? All those in favor of the approval of the $4.2 million resolution, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Seeing none, it's approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brady. And our next item is our capital plan. Mr. McCraw, you've been on deck for a while.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members, Dr. Smith. I just got to figure out how to get in front of Jada. I don't like going behind policy. I appreciate you, Jada, but policy's not my strong suit. I'm teasing. I'm not normally a jokester either, but so back in January, we had a board work session to discuss 4 items to amend the capital budget that you guys approved back in June of 2023. So I just kind of want to give you a little bit of a history so that we fully understand kind of where we've been, what we're doing, and why I'm asking, or the administration is asking for what we're asking. So in June of 2023, we presented you with a budget. You approved it for capital improvement plan for this current school year, 23-24. In June, you approved that budget. You initially approved $1.9 million for us to begin to make capital improvements across the district. If you remember, those of you who were on the school board, it was an aggressive plan. It's harder than you think to spend that much money and to do it correctly via procurement and to get all those projects complete before you can initial payment or give final payment for those. And you probably wasn't clear, but I want to make sure you understand that now. We had the number 1.9 to 2 million in our minds because we, as an administration, we knew we were going to roll over that amount of money from 22-23. Capital funds roll over. If they don't get spent, we roll them over. Well, we knew we were going to roll over $2 million, roughly. So in my mind, I've told y'all this before, promise low, deliver high. I knew that if we proposed a $2 million budget, we were for sure going to have roughly $2 million if we didn't get any new capital funds. So that was part of the point in proposing the initial $1.9 million capital plan for 23-24 school year. Now, obviously, we did not want to overspend. So in actuality, when we get those proceeds, and we got them back in the fall of this past fall, we received over $4 million. We carried over $2 million. We received $4 million additional dollars. So that puts us in a great spot in regards to our capital expenditure fund or capital plan fund. So keep in mind what you also heard 2 weeks ago. We have $38 million worth of improvements that we can make over the course of the next 10 or so years. So with that being said, having a significant balance in our capital fund is a great thing because we're able to attack needs that have been brought to our attention through this facilities report. So on top of the 1.9 that you've already approved back in June and the new items that I brought to you on January the 29th, we are asking for an additional approximately $800,000 to accomplish 3 of those 4 amendments that we talked about on January the 29th, okay? Forward thinking, okay? 1.9, 800,000, we're still probably going to roll over almost 3 million to 24-25 fiscal year. Yet again, we're in a great financial place to accomplish a lot of those projects, a lot of those deficiencies that were brought to our attention by the facilities report. So this request, this ask that we're about to give you for those 3 amendments, I want you to hear me clearly say it's not going to crush or deplete our capital fund. And we are strategic in doing that. The administration, prior administration, current administration, all of us that work together, we are trying to be fiscally sound in everything that we are doing. So let's talk about those 3 items, okay? And we'll get to the 4th one. If you remember from the work session, there was 4. So we're going to ask you to approve an additional $800,000 to the 23-24 capital plan to accomplish 3 large, unexpected capital projects. The first one is the Chapman High School weight room. If you notice, Coach Watson, who is our strength coach at Chapman High School, has sat here all night because this is something that he is passionate about. He also knows that it's a need, it is a safety concern, and he is here, number one, because he loves this school district and the kids of our school district, but he's also here to let you know that this is a need that we need to address tonight. Upon departure the other night, a couple of you asked for numbers. And again, I'm giving you approximations, okay? We have these items out for bid, so I'm giving you approximations. But the Chapman High School weight room renovation is going to cost approximately $200,000. So that's item number 1. Item number 2, which you guys heard again in January 29th, is the athletic sound system replacement at both Chapman and Landrum High School. That includes both football fields at one at Chapman, one at Landrum. Both baseball fields, one at each school, both softball fields, and the gymnasium. That approximately is going to be a guesstimate. You know, we had a sound engineer write the specs for that. Is approximately $250,000. Remember, those are original pieces of equipment when the new high schools were built. Same as the weight equipment that's in the weight room at Chapman, original to when the school was built. The third one is the fire alarm system and panel. Now, here, this is a change at O.P. Earl Elementary School. If you remember, we had our conversation in here. What school was our school of choice? I'm going to quiz you. Good job, Ms. Baker. Landrum Middle. And if you remember, upon us telling you that, it was due to the fact that the parts were no longer easy to replace. Last week, we got some exciting news. The exciting news was that a local hospital redid their entire fire system, and their equipment wasn't so bad. And guess what we have connection to? Lots of replacement parts that are going to help us over the next several years be able to maintain Landrum Middle School's current fire system. That's a great idea. That's a great thing. That's a positive. But if you remember also, I told you in order the next school that would need replacing would be O.P. Earl. So after discussion with the administration, Mr. Allison, Director of Maintenance, we believe that we need to continue to pursue this capital budget, 23-24, and replace the fire alarm system and panel at O.P. Earl Elementary School. And we have begun that process and that discussion with the architect and electrical engineer as well. And this one was a shock. But I'm just going to be honest with you. Y'all know, call it like I see it, $350,000. So when you put buildings up to code now, you have to have voice over IP activation for fire alarm systems. We have that in none of our schools, so we will be moving to that in each of our schools as we update these systems. So that is a significant cost. I knew that was coming. I just wasn't quite expecting that number.
And that's not us. This is fire code now. So when you update, we don't have a choice.
Correct. So that number was a little bit larger than what I had originally anticipated. But after talking with the architect and the electrical engineer, we feel like that's kind of max limit. Obviously, our goal or hope would be that all these numbers could come in a little bit under than the values that I gave you. But I promise low and deliver high, so I would rather overestimate than underestimate. And so that's why those costs are a little bit higher than what I originally anticipated. On another note, regarding the Mabry Middle School, that was the fourth project, the fourth amendment to the capital plan that we discussed back in January. I'm still working with the developer to determine the best way to proceed. What we gathered from our work session, which is so important, when I say we, I'm talking about Dr. Smith and the administration. What we gathered was that there was a little concern over the procurement by the contractor, the developer on that. So I've gone back to them and let them know that if we are going to take part in that, we would be handling the procurement side of that driveway. So we're still working through that right now. So that is not an addition that we're asking you for tonight. It does not have anything to do with the driveway widening at Mabry. We still believe that it is vital. We still believe that it is important. And if we get to that point in this fiscal year where we're going to do it, you will hear from me again with numbers, and we will follow our procurement policy in order to be able to do so.
And this is falling under state procurement now too, isn't it? State procurement.
For the district, correct.
For the district.
Yes,
right,
ma'am.
Lacey? Okay.
So I am not making a recommendation tonight in regards to the Mabry driveway widening project. So, Mr. Chairman, the administration recommends that the school board approve approximately $800,000 increase to the 23-24 capital plan to accomplish the 3 projects mentioned. 1, Chapman High School weight room renovation. 2, athletic sound system replacement at both Chapman and Landrum High School. And 3, the fire alarm system and panel at OP Earl.
On the sound system, you said that was football, stadium, baseball, softball.
It's all of our athletic venues that host competitions. We would not place the sound system on the practice fields, but both game fields at both high schools, both baseball fields, both softball fields, and both gymnasiums.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
For the $800,000 in capital funds to complete these 3 items that we were taught about. So I'll leave it open for,
I'll make a motion, we approve
motion.
the recommendation.
thank you, Mr. Holden, for the motion, Ms. Baker for the second. Any further discussion?
I do have some discussion, or just questions in regarding the capital plan as we lay out expansions, and what is the timeline on taking the input from the survey and laying that into a long-term capital plan?
We're gonna get back together for a work session. You're talking about from the Macmillan
Yeah,
report?
right.
We'll get back together as a board for a work session and go through that.
Okay.
Yeah,
so we're-
that's where we're gonna develop what's the short-term and long-term, 3, 5, 10-year plan.
Based on your recommendation about capacity. That's where we're gonna have that conversation as well.
Any further discussion? Mr. Skinner?
I know Landrum and Chapman, the weight rooms was different. We talked about that, because of the number of students. You know what it costs to rearrange Landrum's weight room?
The value, we give each weight room, or historically over the last several years since I've been at the district office, we've given each weight room, and Coach Watson can agree to that, roughly $10,000 to spend on equipment as they need each year, because that equipment is used by so many kids. So over the course of a couple of years of our $10,000, and then the money that they raised via various fundraisers and their Booster Club account, they were able to accomplish a lot of the things that they needed in their weight room. But to give you an exact amount, I don't have an exact amount, but I'm gonna guess it'd be close to $50,000 to $60,000.
What about the old equipment at Chapman? We're gonna sell it, or we're gonna try to reuse some of it, or?
We had this conversation just the other day. We're gonna look to move some of it to Mabry. Mabry has the middle school program there. We know with D-team football, they practice there. And oftentimes it's difficult to get those middle school kids to the high school for sheer space. So we're gonna look at moving some of those platforms that are stable, the ones that are on the walls that are single racks. We're gonna move some of those to Mabry for our students to use at Mabry. Some of the others are gonna be sold off, and for the amount of money that they're sold off, we're gonna be able to put back into other equipment for the weight program.
And I had one other question about the parts from the hospital. That's going to Mabry, not Mabry, but Landrum Middle.
Yeah, we don't have those parts, so it's not like we get the parts, but we have a contract with Honeywell. And Honeywell provides our maintenance and service for those fire panel systems. So Honeywell has those parts that they can use to keep that system up and running for a long period of time now.
Are the parts available where we can get them and it may be a big issue for our safety now, but can we get the parts?
We can get the parts if we need them now. Yes, sir, for Landrum Middle School. And what you will see in the future is some of these items that we're noticing, like the fire panel, though you will see that on the next year's original capital plan, so you won't be getting an amendment at this point in time.
Jason, I just want to say, whatever we do with these weight rooms, whether we move equipment to Mabry or whatever we're doing, please make sure that they are as safe as they can possibly be for these kids and the staff.
Yes, ma'am.
Because over a year ago, I know there was a presentation by athletics addressing this Chapman weight room. So it's been an ongoing concern. So let's just make sure we do what we can do.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Supervision helps a whole lot, and these guys do a great job every day.
Just want to clarify that the use of the weight room is not only for the public, it's not only for athletic teams, but it's for students who take weight training as a class. It's not just for the teams in the district, it's the opportunities there for all students.
That is correct.
That will be using.
Our strength training classrooms are not limited to athletes only. The vast majority of students that take it are athletes, but that is correct. But our weight coaches impact more lives almost than anybody, because so many kids come through there. Male, female, you name the sport, cheerleaders who are super strong, and it requires a lot of strength for cheer. So people that you don't normally think come in contact with Coach Watson and those guys on a daily basis, before school, during school, and after school. So yes, sir. ROTC could possibly use it as well.
I just want to mention really quickly, this is a little bit off, but I'd like to compliment the Booster Club at Landrum High School for taking that initiative and raising that amount of money that you just said for that weight room where they saw an issue. I think that was outstanding. I'm not trying to compare the two, but that is something that definitely needs to be, complimented, that they did a great job there. That's wonderful. So.
And as we mentioned before, if you remember, there are some items that they have requested that they continue to need, so we will fulfill those items from a district level as well, that we have the capability to purchase.
I'd just like to say to the board, if we're gonna get this new equipment, especially, and I'll speak for the baseball field, I would really like to see us look at maybe building something to put the announcers in to get them out of the weather and use this equipment. They really need something at both schools, especially Chapman. The bathrooms are so far from the baseball field. Elderly people can't hardly walk from the baseball field up to the bathroom. And I'd like to see us get if we could take the money out of this fund that you're talking about, if we got some extra money, buy a golf cart to transport elderly people from the gate to the softball and the baseball field. That's a long walk from that parking lot up there at Chapman. It's a very long walk. It's not too bad at Landrum. But I'd like to see a plan to build something for the announcers, and I'd love to have a restroom and a concession stand closer to Chapman's baseball field in the future.
And I think, Coach, that's, as we get in our work session, that'd be things for us to talk about when we get together then.
On a note too, this sound system, we're actually going to be able to use it up top or down low, right behind home plate, so that they can have possibly set up a small tent to protect them from the weather that's less impacted by the wind. So Landrum currently does that already with a long extension to the sound system. So we're given this new sound system will provide some options.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Vander.
Please, I just want to emphasize that we're addressing a safety issue first, as far as instead of just the way the system sounds, but there are several serious safety issues involved with replacing the sound system and things that Mr. Skinner just mentioned. Very, very student safety, very much so, as well as instructors.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Vanderford. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor of the passing the motion to approve, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. McCraw. Seeing no further business, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
A motion from Mr. Holden, a second. Ms. Baker, I'm sorry, thank you. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you, no opposition.